y'all go ahead and do the factoring and the math knowledge question for today. Pause the video, and then once everyone is finished, unpause it, and we'll go over the correct answers. So this factoring is going to start off as x squared. And we're looking for two numbers that'll multiply to give us 20 and add to give us 9. Those are both sums of squares, and so you can't factor that any further. You'll leave it just like this. Okay, so that's your answer for the factoring. Now looking at the math knowledge question. They tell us the volume of a cube is 64 centimeters cubed. Volume formula for a cube is just S cubed. So that means that our side length is 4. And then it asks for the surface area of the cube. Well, one surface is just S times S. So that's S squared. And we have 6 faces for a cube. So to find our surface area, we're just going to do 6 times S squared. Well, S is 4, so 4 squared is 16 times 6 is going to give you 96. So D would be your answer here. Okay, moving on to the lesson. We're looking at lesson 83 today. We're dealing with integration of even powers of sine x and cosine x. So back a week or two ago, we looked at the integration of odd powers of sine x and cosine x. For even powers, you kind of do them the same way. You're going to have to deal with it a little bit differently. You're going to have to substitute something else instead of 1 minus sine squared or 1 minus cosine squared. But hopefully you'll understand how to integrate even powers of sine and cosine. So to integrate your even powers of sine x and cosine x, you use the following identities. Sine squared of x equals 1/2 minus 1/2 cosine of 2x. And then for cosine squared, it equals 1/2 plus 1/2 cosine of 2x. Now, I believe that all of your books have been corrected, but if you are looking in your book on page 426, the second identity may still say sine squared. They may both say sine squared of x, but the second one should say cosine squared of x. So if you're looking in your book, they did make a typo there. It should be corrected, but if it's not corrected in your book, I do want you to go ahead and change that so that it is correct for the next class. Alrighty, so we want to integrate cosine squared of x. Well, what we do here is we replace cosine squared of x with its identity that we had written on the last board, which is going to be 1/2 plus 1/2 cosine of 2x. And so now we're going to integrate 1/2, and that's going to be 1/2 x. And then we're going to integrate cosine of 2x to be sine of 2x. And I'm leaving a space because I'm not sure what goes in front of it right now. Well, let's take the derivative to figure out what number goes there. Derivative of sine is cosine, and then derivative of 2x is just 2. So we have a 1/2, and right here we have a 2. So the way that we make that into a 1/2 is to multiply by 1/4. And so we're going to put a plus 1/4 in front of our sine of 2x. And then you don't want to forget your plus c. And so this would be your answer to the integration of cosine squared of x. Now let's look at this one. We have sine squared x times cosine squared x. On this one, we are going to have to replace both the sine squared x and the cosine squared of x with their identities. So sine squared of x was 1/2 minus 1/2 cosine of 2x. And then cosine squared was 1/2 plus 1/2 cosine of 2x with respect to x. And so now we want to distribute this. So we're going to have 1/4 plus 1/4 cosine of 2x minus 1/4 cosine of 2x, and then minus 1/4 cosine squared of 2x. Now, your two middle terms do cancel out, and so you're left with the integration of 1/4 minus 1/4 cosine squared of 2x. Oh no! If you notice, we're back to the little squared for our cosine. We can't integrate them without substituting. So we're going to have to substitute again. We're going to use our formula, our little identity, yet again. So the integration, or the formula for cosine of 2x is going to be 1/2 plus 1/2 cosine of 4x. And the reason it's a 4x, the identity that you have written down takes your cosine squared of x, and then it becomes a cosine of 2x. So when we plug in a 2x on the left side, we're going to have cosine of 4x. And so that's where that 4 comes from. It's no longer a 2. You basically just multiplied that by 2. So now we're going to distribute. We have 1/4 minus 1/8, and then minus 1/8 cosine of 4x. Those first two terms can be combined. 1/4 minus 1/8 is going to be 1/8, and then minus 1/8 cosine of 4x dx. Now we integrate. Integration of 1/8 is going to be 1x. The integration of cosine of 4x is going to be the sine of 4x. And I'm going to take the derivative to figure out what my number should be in front of that. So derivative of sine would be cosine, and then times 4. So the derivative of 4x is 4. Well, I need a 1/8. So the only way to make that 4 into 1/8 is divide by 1/32. And so I'm going to have minus 1/32 and then plus c. And so that would be your answer. So you have to keep substituting your identities until you end up with no squares for your sine and your cosines. Okay, so let's look at one more example. We have sine to the 4th. Well, the first thing that you're going to do is to break this into sine squared x times sine squared of x. And so now we replace sine squared of x with 1/2 minus 1/2 cosine of 2x. And then we do it with the other one as well. Okay? So after you do that, you're going to distribute. And unfortunately, our two middle terms are not going to cancel out here. They're both going to be a minus. But I can combine them. We're going to have 1/4 minus 1/2 cosine of 2x, and then plus 1/4 cosine squared of 2x dx. So what do we have to do on this one? What do you see? Unfortunately, we have a squared still, so we've got to replace it. So I'm going to have 1/4 minus 1/2 cosine of 2x, and then plus 1/4, and instead of cosine squared of 2x, I'm going to put 1/2 plus 1/2 cosine of 4x. Don't forget to multiply that 2x here by 2. And so now we're going to distribute. I have 1/4 minus 1/2 cosine of 2x plus 1/8 plus 1/8 cosine of 4x. Okay, so now we can combine the 1/4 and the 1/8. to be 3/8, and then have minus 1/2 cosine of 2x, and then plus 1/8 cosine of 4x. So now we can integrate these separate terms. Integration of 3/8 is going to be 3/8x. The integration of cosine of 2x is going to go to a sine of 2x. And then if you take the derivative of that, you would have cosine of 2x times 2. And we need it to be a 1/2, so you need to add a 1/4 in front of that. So we have minus 1/4. And then we're going to have a sine of 4x. And if we're not sure what number goes in front, take the derivative. The sine of 4x goes to cosine of 4x times 4. So we need it to be a 1/8. So divide by 32. So we have plus 1 over 32. And then don't forget your plus c. We don't want to miss that 1 point on your test. And so that would be the way that sine to the 4th of x integrates. So you do need to learn sine squared of x equals 1/2 minus 1/2 cosine of 2x, and cosine squared of x equals 1/2 plus 1/2 cosine of 2x. They look identical except for one has a minus sign and one has a plus sign. So make sure that you do your homework for tonight. You do get to omit number 9 and 21, and then we can go over any questions that you have tomorrow.